I came home from 12 years of building wells in East Africa to find my son mucking horse stalls in the barn I built for him. He handed me a cup of water from the outdoor spigot, thinking I was a drifter looking for day work. He did not recognize his own father. He could not see that the weathered old man standing in the dust was not a vagrant, but a ghost carrying $340 million in mining royalties and a burning hunger for justice. Before I tear their kingdom apart, let me tell you how it started. My name is Harold. I am 67 years old. For the past 12 years, the world believed I was either dead from malaria or lost somewhere in the bush of Tanzania. My brother Victor made sure of that. He told everyone I had gone mad, abandoned my family, and vanished into the African wilderness like some broken fool chasing redemption. He was half right. I did chase redemption, but I was never broken. I was building something. And while I built wells and water systems for villages that had never seen clean water, I also stumbled upon a lithium deposit that would make me one of the wealthiest men in America. But I did not know that my fortune was growing while my family was being destroyed. The day I returned to Montana, the sky was the color of iron. A cold October wind swept across the plains, carrying the smell of pine and coming snow. I stood at the edge of the property, looking at the ranch I had purchased 20 years ago. It was 3,000 acres of prime land, nestled against the Absaroka Mountains. I had paid $3.2 million cash back when I was still a successful civil engineer with government contracts. I bought this ranch for my son Nathan to give him a legacy, to give his future children a home that would last generations. The main house was different now. Someone had added a ridiculous fountain in the front. There were luxury cars parked in the circular driveway. A woman I did not recognize was lounging by a new swimming pool that had not existed when I left. I adjusted my dusty hat. My clothes were deliberately worn. My beard was long and gray. I looked exactly like what I wanted them to see. A wandering old man, perhaps a former ranch hand, looking for work. I had learned in Africa that the best way to understand a situation was to observe from the shadows. The predator does not announce itself to the prey. I walked up the gravel path toward the barn. A man was inside, forking hay into a stall. He was thin, too thin. His clothes hung off his frame like rags on a scarecrow. His hair was unkempt, and there were dark circles under his eyes that spoke of years without rest. I stopped breathing. It was Nathan, my son. He was 42 now, but he looked 60. The strong young man I had left behind had been hollowed out, reduced to a shell. He looked up when he heard my boots on the concrete floor. "Excuse me, sir," he said. His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. "If you are looking for work, you need to talk to the foreman. I am just the stable hand." I opened my mouth to say his name, but the words caught in my throat. I stared at him. I looked at his hands, calloused and cracked, bleeding at the knuckles from the cold. I looked at his eyes, the same hazel eyes his mother had, but they were empty now. There was no spark, no hope. "I just need some water," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Long walk from the highway." Nathan nodded. He set down his pitchfork and walked to a spigot on the outside wall. He filled a dented tin cup and brought it to me. As he handed it over, his sleeve rode up. I saw bruises on his forearm, yellow and purple, old and new. "You should move along before they see you," he whispered, glancing toward the main house. "My aunt does not like strangers on the property. She will call the sheriff." "Your aunt?" I repeated slowly. "She owns this place," Nathan said. He looked down at his boots. "My father left it to her when he died. At least, that is what the lawyers said. I work here to pay off the debts he left behind." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. "Debts?" I said. "What debts?" Nathan shrugged, but I saw the shame burning in his face. "My father was not a good man, sir. He borrowed money from everyone. He left us with nothing but bills. Aunt Diana and Uncle Victor took us in. They let us stay here, but we have to earn our keep." "Us," I said. "Who else?" "My daughter," Nathan whispered. His voice cracked. "Emma. She is 8 years old. She helps in the kitchen. A granddaughter. I had a granddaughter I had never met, and she was working in the kitchen of my own house like a servant. "Where is your wife?" I asked. Nathan's face went blank. "She left," he said flatly. 3 years after you. After my father disappeared. She could not handle the debt collectors. She could not handle Victor. She just left one night. Took nothing. I have not heard from her since." I felt the cup tremble in my hand. Not from weakness, but from rage. "And your mother?" I asked. "My wife, Catherine. What happened to her?" Nathan looked at me strangely, perhaps wondering why a stranger would ask such questions. "She died," he said quietly. 5 years ago. Heart attack. The doctor said it was stress. She spent years trying to clear my father's name. She believed he was innocent. She believed he would come back. But he never did, and it killed her. Catherine was dead. My wife, my partner of 30 years, was dead, and I had not been there. I had been building wells in Tanzania while she died defending my memory. "I am sorry," I managed to say. "I am sorry for your loss." Nathan shrugged again. It was the shrug of a man who had been beaten down so many times he had forgotten what standing tall felt like. "It is what it is," he said. "Look, you should go. If Uncle Victor sees me talking to strangers, he will dock my pay again. Emma needs her medicine this month." "Medicine?" I asked. "She is diabetic," Nathan said. "Type 1. The insulin is expensive. Victor controls the family account. He decides when she gets her shots." I felt something cold and sharp twist in my gut. "He controls her insulin," I repeated. Nathan nodded, his eyes wet. "It keeps us in line," he whispered. "If I complain, if I try to leave, if I do anything they do not like, Emma does not get her medicine. Do you understand? They own us. They own every breath we take." I understood perfectly. My brother had taken my son and granddaughter hostage, using a child's disease as the chains. I set the cup down on a hay bale. "Thank you for the water," I said. I turned and walked out of the barn. I walked down the gravel path, past the fountain, past the luxury cars. I walked until I reached the county road, where a black SUV was waiting. The door opened. My lawyer, a man named Gideon, looked at me with concern. "Did you see him?" he asked. "I saw him," I said, climbing into the vehicle. "And I saw what they have done." "What is the play, Harold?" I looked back at the ranch, at the mountains, at the land I had bought with my own hands. "We are going to take everything back," I said. "But first, I need to understand exactly what my brother has built on my grave." We drove to a hotel in Bozeman. Gideon had booked an entire floor for security. In the main suite, he had set up what he called the war room. Screens covered the walls. Documents were stacked on every surface. He had been investigating for 6 months, ever since I had resurfaced and contacted him. "Show me," I said. Gideon pulled up a timeline on the main screen. 12 years ago, he began. "You left for Tanzania. You signed a power of attorney giving your wife Catherine limited access to the ranch finances for emergencies. You told no one about the lithium discovery because you wanted to confirm the deposit size first." "Correct," I said. 6 months after you left, Victor filed a missing persons report. He claimed you had sent a final letter saying you were disappearing forever, that you could not handle the guilt of your debts. "I never sent any letter," I said. "I sent letters to Catherine every month." Gideon nodded grimly. "We found them. Victor intercepted every piece of mail that came to the ranch. Catherine never received your letters. She never knew you were writing. She thought you had abandoned her." I closed my eyes. I imagined my wife, alone, waiting for a word from me, believing I had left her. 2 years after you disappeared, Victor petitioned the court. He had a forged will, a document claiming you had left everything to him in the event of your death or incapacity. The judge ruled in his favor. The ranch, the accounts, everything transferred to Victor and Diana. "Forged," I said. "My brother forged my will." Gideon pulled up another document. "We have the original forensic analysis. The signature was traced from your engineering contracts. It is a perfect forgery, but we can prove it is fake. The ink used was not commercially available until 2 years after the document was supposedly signed." I stared at the screen. My own brother had erased me from existence. What about Nathan? I asked. Why did he not fight it? Gideon sighed. Nathan was 29 when you left. He trusted Victor. They all did. Victor told them you had confessed to embezzlement before you fled. He said you had stolen from your government contracts, that federal agents were looking for you, that the only way to save the family was to let Victor take control and make it right. Lies, I said. Every word a lie. But Nathan believed him, Gideon continued. Catherine believed him at first, too. But after a few years, she started asking questions. She started digging. That is when Victor changed tactics. What did he do? He started isolating them. He moved Nathan and Catherine out of the main house into the foreman's cottage, then later into the bunkhouse. He gave them work to do around the ranch, said it was their contribution. Slowly, over years, they went from family to staff to servants. Gideon clicked to a new screen. Financial records. Victor has been siphoning money from the ranch for a decade. He sold off 2,000 acres of your land for $4.5 million. He mortgaged the rest for another $2 million. He has accounts in the Caymans that we have traced but cannot touch yet. And my lithium deposit? I asked. Gideon smiled grimly. That is the beautiful part. Victor does not know it exists. The deposit is on a parcel you bought separately under a holding company name. He never found the paperwork. He does not know he is sitting next to a $400 million mountain. I sat back in my chair. So my brother stole my ranch, forged my will, enslaved my son, and is using my granddaughter's life as leverage to keep them compliant. That is the summary. Yes, Gideon said. I thought about Catherine dying alone, believing I had abandoned her. I thought about Nathan, broken and bruised, thinking his father was a thief. I thought about Emma, 8 years old, her life dependent on the whims of monsters. What do we have on Victor? I asked. Personally. Gideon pulled up a dossier. Victor is 62. He married Diana 15 years ago, his third wife. Diana came from money but burned through it all. They need this ranch. Without it, they are bankrupt. Their lifestyle costs $400,000 a year minimum. They have been selling assets to stay afloat. And Diana? Diana is the enforcer. She runs the household. She is the one who moved Nathan to the barn. She is the one who took Emma out of school and put her to work. Victor is the schemer, but Diana is the cruelty. Anyone else? A lawyer named Patterson. He is the one who filed the forged documents. He notarized the fake will. He has been their fixer for years. I nodded slowly. 3 targets, 3 enemies. We need evidence, I said. Not just proof of the forgery. I want recordings. I want them admitting what they did. I want them so buried in their own words that no jury in the world can save them. Gideon opened a briefcase. Inside were several small electronic devices. Military-grade listening equipment, he said, undetectable by commercial sweepers. I also have contacts at the FBI field office in Billings. They are very interested in the wire fraud and mail fraud angles. But they need probable cause. Then we give them probable cause, I said. But first, I need to get inside that house. I need to see exactly what they have done to my family. Gideon looked at me carefully. Harold, you cannot just walk in there. If they recognize you, the whole plan falls apart. I smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. They will not recognize me, I said. I have been gone for 12 years. I have lost 40 pounds. I have a full beard. I look like a homeless drifter. That is exactly what I am going to be. I spent the next 2 days watching the ranch from a distance. I noted the routines. Victor left every morning at 9 to go into town, where he spent hours at the local bar playing the role of successful rancher. Diana stayed at the house, barking orders at the staff, most of whom were hired hands who knew nothing about the family history. Nathan worked from dawn until dark. He did everything, from repairing fences to feeding livestock to cleaning stalls. He ate his meals alone in the barn. He slept in a small room behind the tack storage that had no heat. Emma, my granddaughter, was a ghost. I caught glimpses of her through the kitchen window. She was small for her age, with dark hair like her father. She carried plates. She washed dishes. She never smiled. Once, I saw Diana grab her by the arm and shake her hard enough to make her cry. I gripped the binoculars so tightly I thought they might break. On the third day, I made my move. I walked onto the property through the north pasture, carrying a battered backpack and a walking stick. I approached the barn where Nathan was working and waited until he noticed me. "You again," he said. His voice was wary but not hostile. "I told you, there is no work here." "I am not looking for work," I said. "I am looking for a place to sleep. Just one night. I will be gone by morning. I can work for my supper." Nathan hesitated. He looked toward the main house. "If Diana sees you, she will call the sheriff. She had a man arrested last month for trespassing." "I will stay out of sight," I said. "I can sleep in the woods. Just a little food is all I ask." Nathan's expression softened. I could see the kindness that still lived in him, buried under years of abuse. "Wait here," he said. He disappeared into the barn and returned with a paper bag containing a sandwich and an apple. "This is my dinner," he said, handing it to me. "But you look like you need it more." I took the bag. My hands were shaking. "You are a good man," I said. "Your father would be proud." Nathan flinched as if I had struck him. "My father was a thief," he said quietly, "and a coward. He left us with nothing." "Maybe," I said, holding his gaze. "Or maybe you do not have the whole story." Before he could respond, a voice shattered the moment. "Nathan, who is that?" Diana was marching across the yard, her designer boots crunching on the gravel. She was 55, with a face that had been lifted and pulled so many times it looked like a mask. Her eyes were small and sharp, like a hawk scanning for prey. "Nobody, Aunt Diana," Nathan said quickly. "Just a drifter. He is leaving." "A drifter," Diana repeated, looking at me with undisguised contempt. "On my property, eating my food." I bowed my head, playing the part. "I apologize, ma'am. I meant no harm. Your nephew was just showing Christian charity." Diana laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. "Christian charity." She looked at Nathan. "Did you give this vagrant your dinner?" Nathan said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Diana slapped him across the face. The sound echoed off the barn walls. "Idiot," she spat. "You do not have enough food for yourself, and you give it to trash?" She turned to me. "Get off my land. Now. Before I have you arrested." I looked at Nathan. He was holding his cheek, his eyes on the ground. He did not fight back. He did not even look surprised. This was normal for him. This was his life. "I will go," I said softly. "But I will remember your hospitality." I walked away, but I did not go far. I circled around to the tree line and found a position where I could watch the house. I waited until dark. Then I made my move. The security system was laughable. Victor had spent money on show, not substance. I disabled the backdoor sensor with a simple bypass and slipped into the house through the mudroom. The interior was everything I expected. Diana had redecorated with expensive bad taste. Gold fixtures, crystal chandeliers, velvet furniture that looked like it belonged in a casino. This was my home, the home I had built for Catherine and Nathan, and they had turned it into a monument to greed. I moved silently through the rooms, planting listening devices as I went. One in the study behind a portrait of Diana, one in the kitchen under the island, one in the master bedroom behind the headboard. I was about to leave when I heard a sound. It was crying. Soft, muffled crying, coming from the basement stairs. I followed the sound. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a small storage room. The door was locked from the outside. I knelt down and spoke through the crack. "Hello," I whispered. "Who is in there?" The crying stopped. "Who are you?" a small voice asked. It was high and trembling, a child's voice. "I am a friend," I said. "What is your name?" "Emma," the voice said. "My name is Emma." My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Why are you locked in here, Emma?" "I broke a plate," she said. "Aunt Diana said I have to stay in here until I learn to be careful." I pressed my forehead against the door. My granddaughter was locked in a basement for breaking a plate. "How long have you been in here?" I asked. "Since lunchtime," she whispered. "I am hungry, and I need my shot, My arm hurts when I do not get my shot. Her insulin. They were withholding her insulin as punishment. Listen to me, Emma, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I am going to help you. Not tonight, but soon. I need you to be brave. Can you be brave for me? Are you really a friend? She asked. I am more than a friend, I said. I am someone who will never let anyone hurt you again. I promise. I heard footsteps above. Diana was coming downstairs. I have to go, I whispered, but I will come back. I promise. I slipped out through a basement window and disappeared into the night. I did not sleep. I sat in the hotel room, listening to the audio feeds, compiling evidence. By morning, I had everything I needed. Victor, drunk and boastful, bragging to Diana about how he had fooled the courts. The old fool made it too easy, Victor laughed. He trusted everyone. All I had to do was hire Patterson to fake the will and make up some debts. By the time anyone could have questioned it, I had already sold the North Pasture. And the boy believes it all, Diana added. He thinks his father was a criminal. He will work himself to death trying to pay off imaginary debts. What about the girl? Victor asked. She is leverage, Diana said coldly. As long as we control her medicine, Nathan will never leave. He will never question us. He will be our slave forever. I turned off the recording. I had heard enough. Gideon, I said into the phone, contact the FBI. Tell them we have wire fraud, mail fraud, forgery, and child endangerment. Tell them I want arrest warrants, ready within 48 hours. What about the property? Gideon asked. I have a plan for that, I said. Victor wants to sell the remaining land to pay his debts. He has been looking for a buyer. I know, Gideon said. He listed it last month, asking $6 million for 1,000 acres. Make an offer, I said. $8 million. Cash. Fast close. No inspections. Harold, that is your land. You are buying your own property. I am buying their greed, I said, and I am going to use it to bury them. 48 hours later, I walked into the conference room at Drummond & Associates, the most prestigious law firm in Montana. I was no longer dressed as a vagrant. I wore a hand-tailored suit from London. My beard was trimmed. My posture was straight. I looked exactly like what I was, a very wealthy man with very serious intentions. Victor and Diana were already seated at the table. They looked nervous, but excited. The $8 million offer had made them giddy. They could not believe their luck. A lawyer named Patterson sat next to them, the same Patterson who had forged my will. He looked sleek and confident, completely unaware that he was sitting in his own coffin. Nathan was there too. They had brought him as a prop, forced to wear a cheap suit and sit in the corner like a servant waiting for orders. He did not look at me. He did not recognize me. But there was one more chair, a small chair next to Nathan, and in it sat Emma. My granddaughter was wearing a dress that was too big for her. Her hair was pulled back severely. She looked tired and scared. But when I walked in, something in her expression changed. She squinted at me, as if trying to remember something. Ladies and gentlemen, Gideon announced, may I present my client, Harold Whitmore. The name meant nothing to Victor. He stood up with a salesman's smile, extending his hand. Mr. Whitmore, he said smoothly, it is a pleasure. I hope we can conclude this transaction quickly. I think you will find the property exceeds all expectations. I did not shake his hand. I looked at him, holding his gaze until his smile faltered. Sit down, Victor, I said quietly. He blinked. I am sorry? I said sit down. Something in my voice made him obey. He sat. I walked to the head of the table. I looked at Diana, who was clutching her pearls nervously. I looked at Patterson, who was shuffling papers. I looked at Nathan, whose eyes were fixed on the table. And I looked at Emma, who was still staring at me with that strange expression. You do not recognize me, I said to the room. None of you do. 12 years is a long time. But I remember all of you. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a photograph. It was an old picture of me, Catherine, and Nathan, taken at this very ranch on the day I bought it. I slid it across the table. Victor picked it up. His face went white. No, he whispered. This is impossible. You are dead. You are supposed to be dead. I died when you decided I should die, I said. But death did not agree. Diana stood up, her chair screeching against the floor. This is fraud, she shrieked. This man is an impostor. He is not Harold. Harold disappeared. Harold is a criminal. I am standing right here, Diana. The same Harold who paid $3.2 million for this ranch. The same Harold whose signature you forged. The same Harold whose son you turned into a slave. I looked at Nathan. He was frozen, his mouth open, his eyes wet. Nathan, I said softly, look at me. Really look at me. He raised his head. He stared at me. And then I saw it. The moment recognition hit him like lightning. Dad, he breathed. Hello, son. Nathan stood up so fast his chair fell over. He took a step toward me, then stopped, uncertain. They said you stole money? They said you abandoned us. They said Mom died because of you. They lied, I said. I have the proof. I signaled to Gideon. He pressed a button, and the speakers in the room crackled to life. Victor's voice filled the room, drunken, boastful. The old fool made it too easy. All I had to do was hire Patterson to fake the will and make up some debts. Victor lurched to his feet. That is doctored, he shouted. That is fake. You cannot record private conversations. I can when those conversations constitute evidence of a crime, I said. Wire fraud, mail fraud, forgery, and there is more. I pressed another button, Diana's voice this time. She is leverage. As long as we control her medicine, Nathan will never leave. He will be our slave forever. The room went silent. I looked at Emma. She was crying silently, tears running down her little face. But she was also smiling. She understood, perhaps better than anyone, that something was finally going to change. You used my granddaughter's disease as a weapon, I said to Diana. You withheld insulin from an 8-year-old child to keep her father obedient. I walked slowly toward her. Do you know what that is called, Diana? That is child abuse. That is endangerment. And that carries a 15-year sentence in Montana. Diana backed away until she hit the wall. You cannot prove anything, she hissed. It is your word against ours. I smiled. Not anymore. The conference room door opened. 4 FBI agents walked in, followed by the county sheriff. Victor Whitmore, one of the agents announced, you are under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, and forgery. Diana Whitmore, you are under arrest for child endangerment and conspiracy to commit fraud. Thomas Patterson, you are under arrest for notarizing false documents and conspiracy to commit fraud. Patterson bolted for the door. He made it 3 steps before an agent tackled him. His face hit the carpet with a satisfying thud. Victor tried to negotiate. Harold, wait. We are family. We can work this out. I will give you the ranch back. I will sign everything over. I walked up to him. I got close enough to smell the fear sweating through his expensive cologne. You killed my wife, I said quietly. You let her die thinking I abandoned her. You stole 12 years from my son. You threatened the life of a child. And you think you can work this out? I leaned in closer. There is nothing to work out, Victor. You are going to prison. Your assets are being seized. Your bank accounts are frozen. By the time you get out, if you get out, you will be living in a homeless shelter. And every night, when you close your eyes, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that everything you built was on a foundation of lies, and I tore it all down. The agents cuffed him. They cuffed Diana, who was screaming about lawyers and rights. They dragged Patterson up from the floor and marched all 3 of them out. The room was quiet. I turned to Nathan. He was standing with Emma, holding her tight. They were both crying. I walked over to them. I knelt down so I was at Emma's level. Hello, Emma, I said. Do you remember me? She nodded, sniffling. You are the man who talked to me through the door. You said you would come back. I did, I said. And I am never leaving again. I stood up and looked at Nathan. I am sorry, I said. I am sorry I was not here. I am sorry I could not protect you. I am sorry about your mother. Nathan shook his head. You came back, he said. That is what matters. He hugged me. It was awkward at first, the hug of a man who had forgotten what affection felt like. But then he relaxed into it, and I felt 12 years of separation begin to dissolve. What happens now? he asked. Now, I said. We go home. I looked around the conference room, at the scattered papers, at the overturned chairs, at the space where the monsters had stood. The real home, I added. The one I am going to rebuild for us. We walked out of the law firm together, Nathan and Emma and me. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Gideon was waiting by the car. The property reverts to your name within 30 days, he said. The trust accounts are already being transferred. And the medical team is standing by for Emma. Medical team? Nathan asked. I smiled at my granddaughter. You are going to the best children's hospital in the country, I said. They are going to make sure you never have to worry about your medicine again. Emma looked up at me with wide eyes. Really? Really? She hugged me then, this little girl I had never met, wrapping her arms around my waist and holding on like I was the only solid thing in a world that had been trying to drown her. I held her back. I looked at Nathan. There is something else, I said. Something I never told anyone. I pulled out my phone and showed him a geological survey. 12 years ago, before I went to Africa, I discovered a lithium deposit on a piece of land I bought separately from the ranch. That deposit is now worth $340 million, and it all belongs to you and Emma. Nathan stared at the phone. He stared at the numbers. He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. We are millionaires, he whispered. We are family, I corrected. That is worth more than any amount of money. We got in the car. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. I could see the law firm shrinking in the distance. Somewhere in there, Victor was being processed. Diana was having her jewelry confiscated. Patterson was crying about his career. I felt nothing for them. They had taken everything from me and my family. They had built their lives on our suffering. And now they would know what it felt like to have nothing. I looked at Emma, who had fallen asleep against Nathan's shoulder. I looked at my son, who was staring out the window at the mountains, maybe seeing them for the first time in years. I learned something in those 12 years in Africa. I learned that the hardest thing is not survival. The hardest thing is coming home. But I also learned that no matter how long you are gone, no matter how much has changed, family is worth fighting for. They tried to bury my memory. They tried to steal my legacy. They tried to break my son and use my granddaughter as a pawn. They failed, because some debts cannot be erased, some truths cannot be hidden, and some fathers will walk through hell itself to come home. If you have ever fought for your family, if you have ever waited in the darkness for justice to arrive, hit the subscribe button. And remember, vengeance is not about anger, it is about love. Love for the people who deserve better. Love that refuses to die. I am Harold, and I finally came home.